We had one of Miss Soto's students petting Spartacus, and the long story short was, student wasn't talking to anybody. But all of a sudden opens up and starts talking to Spartacus about what happened that day.
Wow.
And we're all kind of like going, yeah, all this whiskey here may not have been enough for all of us that day.
Wow, jeez.
I do not know you, but I am your brother.
You do not know me, but I am your protector.
I will run into a burning building to save your life.
Though I do not know your name, I will take a bullet for you.
Though we've never met,
I believe in duty and sacrifice
of self.
Your family is my family.
Is my family. Your life is my duty.
What's going on, guys? It is time for another episode of Behind the Uniforms, very special episode. I am super excited to have this gentleman join us. For those of you who are new to this series, the way that this works is that we invite guests on the show, police, veterans, other first responders, and they share with us two stories. A very positive story and a very difficult story. The whole idea is to show that these men and women behind the uniforms are just like you and us. They want to go home to their families every single day. The difference, the real difference, is that these protectors are the ones who are really impacting lives every single day. So without further ado, I can't even give you an appropriate introduction. Can you tell everybody who the two of you are?
My name is Brad Cole. I'm the Executive Director of K-9 First Responders, and this is my partner Spartacus, and we are a psychological trauma response agency.
That might be the best name I've ever heard.
Yeah, Spartacus kind of fills his name.
Now, you know, it's funny, Brad and I connected a month or so ago, and we've had several guests who have come on the show since then who have said, I got a guy for you to meet, I got a guy for you to meet. And so, you know, I couldn't not have you on the show. So why don't you give everybody some context, talk about the company a little bit, and then we'll go maybe low and then high on stories.
Okay. We are a psychological trauma agency that responds to tragedy, crisis, violence, incidents for schools and communities, as well as behind the scenes with first responders. As a police officer recently told us, we're the first responders for the first responders.
Wow. What? Where do you want to start? You want to start high? You want to start low?
You choose.
All right. Let's go low.
Okay. Sandy Hook Elementary School shootings impacted everybody, obviously, in Connecticut. My office is next door to Sandy Hook. And given my background and training, and at the time Spartacus and I were visiting Yale New Haven Hospital, we had full privileges throughout the hospital. So we approached the crisis teams at that location that afternoon, and we said, here's who we are, here's what we offer. Do you need some psychological trauma resources? And they all kind of looked at each other and said, yeah, we never really thought about it before. And so what started as a few hours helping the next morning when the crisis center started opening up, lines started forming because counselors wanted a tool to use with the children, because a lot of the counselors didn't know what to say themselves.
Sure.
They were impacted. And that started a process for, we were there through Christmas afternoon before we took a break ourselves. We worked anywhere from 10 to 15-hour days.
Wow.
And working with the kids. But the low time of that was really on, I think on the Monday morning I was driving into Sandy Hook. I'm trying to keep Spartacus up. We're working long days. And I'm telling him he's a good boy. I love him. He's great, doing a great job. Keep it up, Spartacus. And I had to pull over. I started crying. Here I am telling my dog he's the best thing since sliced bread at the worst event I'll probably ever be at in my life. And the juxtaposition of that,
Sure.
I needed a check to be able to get myself some sort of equilibrium again.
Sure.
And to do that. So it was a way for me to release and reset so I could serve others moving forward.
How did you guys deal with that? I mean, and talk to me a little bit about what a dog like this does to help these children.
Whether it's the children or with the first responders we do as well, because we did both at Sandy Hook. Dogs are proven, and the literature is very clear, they reduce blood pressure, stress, and anxiety. They also drop communication barriers. So physically, when you're lowering the blood pressure, stress, anxiety, your negative stress hormones are also dropping. So all the negative stuff is dropping, and we engage, and the dogs are used as a mental health hall pass.
Sure.
Someone coming in a student, a teacher, a parent, doesn't have to talk about what they've seen. They don't have to talk about anything. But they can sit and just pet the dog, and at their own speed, their own pace, share what they want to. And that's what occurred. And we would invite our friends, quote unquote, our friends in, which would be a counselor or a support person, to sit with us. So you may have 5 or 6 people in a circle just with the dog. And all labels disappeared. It was not police, it was not fire, it was not EMS, it wasn't a parent. It was just all the people at the same time sharing that moment of, man, we've had a bad day. And looking at the dog and petting. And someone would say, oh, I bet he was cute as a puppy. Would you like to see a picture of him as a puppy? Oh yeah, we'd love to. It just gives them that mental hall pass until they were ready to open up. We had one of Miss Soto's students petting Spartacus, and the long story short was, still wasn't talking to anybody. But all of a sudden opens up and starts talking to Spartacus about what happened that day.
Wow.
And we're all kind of like going, yeah, all this whiskey here may not have been enough for all of us that day.
Wow, jeez.
And with various students that were in the school, or I had brothers and sisters in the school, or the teachers, and even the first responders. We had St. Bernard's over with them.
Wow.
And
all right, well, now you got to bring me high.
okay. The high side of it is, and it's a mixed feeling. It's high and it's low at the same time. Is that we know when we leave, we've done some good. Our teams, we have 27 of us right now, with another 10 coming on board in a month, we know we've done well. We know we've made an impact. We just don't know how much of an impact, because oftentimes when you go to a doctor's visit, you have the beginning and end. You have bookmarks.
Yep.
We don't. We are a bridge. We're a pass-through. We'll meet you when you come in and you don't want to talk to anybody, but you know you should be there. And we work with you, we get you talking, and we pass you to the next phase of support. And we don't take names, we don't take numbers. We do this for free, we're all volunteers. And so we oftentimes don't know how someone ends up. So while we know we've done a good job, because people will track us down, or they'll follow our dogs on Facebook, because oftentimes people want to keep in direct contact with the dogs. So a lot of our dogs have Facebook pages.
Huge followings too, right?
Yeah, one of our dogs, Gizmo, who's a resident here in Manchester, has 172,000 followers on Facebook alone.
Allie, can you get an interview with Gizmo, because I got to figure out how he got those numbers. That's incredible.
Yeah. And it's all organic numbers with Gizmo. But our dogs aren't a particular type of breed. And so all different personalities, all different. I can walk right into command staff meeting. I've been there, done that. That's fine. They can respect me. They know what I'm there about. But there's a child that sees a woman who's 56 years old, who's retired with a little dog. Can relate to that as well.
Sure. Can you explain to people the difference between the treatment that you bring first responders and kids, or whoever is in need, through with these beautiful creatures, versus the perception of when people hear these days about therapy dogs being brought to college campuses after a presidential election, anything like that? Because there is a big difference, right?
There is. What we're trained to do is to work on scene or shortly thereafterwards. So we're seeing the very raw, open emotions. It could be anything from, we've been called on scenes for line of duty death, death by suicide of an officer. We've been called in on infant deaths with police, fire, EMS, all just traumatized due to it. And so we're trained to work those environments. And our most important training is what not to do.
Sure.
We know what to do, we have the skill sets if we need to,
Yep.
but our job is to plug and play, is to connect and engage with that person, do it sooner than later. There are a lot of excellent organizations, a couple of them national, that do a great job at crisis and disaster response. They come in with Red Cross or FEMA 48 or 72 hours afterwards. But trauma starts at hour zero. And there's that 48-hour window where what we call memory consolidation occurs. So if your stress hormones are sky high, you have a greater chance of acute stress disorder or PTSD.
Gotcha.
So that's what we do. We use the dogs at that particular point. So it's mostly, the dogs have to be able to handle a lot of environments. You can tell Spartacus is really stressed out here. But they have to be able to handle a Class A office space with granite to emergency department or field triage tent. But in most cases where people don't make the next phase of training are the handlers. They're just not equipped to handle what is at them. And it's not good or bad, just some people can handle these things.
Sure. Hundreds of thousands of people are going to watch this video. What's your ask? How can they help?
We need funds to grow and expand our network. We do it carefully. We're doing it in a calculated fashion. We don't want to grow so quickly that we cannot provide a good service. We do it as a business model. We're all volunteer. We do not charge. We do not pass along costs. 95% of us work full time. And so by the volume of volunteers, we can handle more responses. When we started this core group of people, we were serving maybe 3 or 4 agencies, maybe a half dozen. We formed as a nonprofit, and now we're approaching 60 agencies in 4 states.
Get out of here.
And we're just October 1st going into our 4th year. So we want to make sure everything's done right, because we're only as good as the last person we serve.
Sure. So volunteers and money?
Yep, volunteers and money, and be able to, deployment costs. I mean, obviously unrestricted donations are always appreciated,
Yep.
but corporations, for example, we have Watson Foods out of West Haven, big sponsor of ours. They training, uniforms, radio equipment that we use, printing needs, they step up to the plate. We have PSEG, we have Carter Memorial injury attorneys. They all do it, and a lot of times we can't really recognize our sponsors, because if we're interviewed at, say, the Marion Sanchez homicide in Milford, we're not going to sit there and say, oh, by the way, we want to thank X, Y, and Z. And that's not why they do it. That's not
Sure.
why they support us. But for those corporations that would rather have in-kind support, hotel rooms, meals, Subway's has been a great sponsor of ours, so we get all our healthy food options
Awesome.
as well.
Awesome. Well, Brad, thank you so much for joining us on this
Thank you,
episode.
I appreciate it.
Guys, for everybody watching, we ask very simply, help us share these stories. Hit the share button. Guys, it's going to take you 2 seconds to share the story, and you may just make a huge impact on some lives.
And we have a donate button on our website, which is k9fr.org.
Awesome. We'll link that up. Guys, share this episode. We'll see you next time. God bless America.